Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are finishing our series on parenting tips for all 12 signs of the zodiac by looking at the sign of Pisces. So this video is ideal for people who are parents of Pisces children, meaning Pisces sun, Pisces moon, or Pisces rising. But as I've said in every episode of this series, the series is also designed for all of us who grew up a Pisces or grew up any of the signs that we've explored throughout the series. Each one of us had an experience of being parented in relation to the archetypes that we carry in our birth chart. And it's really helpful to look at, the archetypal nature of our sun, moon, or rising sign, and to get a sense of how we were supported, maybe in what ways we lacked support. Not to put anyone on trial, or to cast judgments or blame, but to understand ourselves better, to understand the environment we were in, and whether the archetypes that are natural to us were supported, or how they were supported, or what things worked and what things didn't. There's an inner child in all of us still that we're always taking care of and continuing to parent in a way. And so I see this series as very valuable for people of all walks of life, whether you're a parent or not. Although, if you are a parent, then in particular, I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments section. So on that note, don't forget to like and subscribe today and share your comments. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for you to grow up Pisces sun, moon, or rising, or maybe you have a stellium of planets in Pisces, or if you're the parent of a Pisces kid, what have you learned? What do you see? What can you add to this conversation today? We really appreciate hearing from you. If you'd like, you can find a transcript of today's talk on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. While you're there, be sure to check out all of my readings and courses. We've had some that have just started. It's not too late to join. If you have any questions about anything you find on the website, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. All right. Well, what we have done in this series so far is we have talked about each of the signs and given 5 parenting tips for each sign. Now, these could be ways that you use these tips to continue to understand yourself, or maybe even your lover or a friend. So I think these can be pretty broadly applied, but hopefully you'll find this useful, especially if you have kids that are a Pisces. So in these 5 parenting tips, the way that I've framed them has been in terms of, excuse me, drink a little of my iced tea here. It looks like whiskey, so I'm just clarifying that it's actually iced tea. just hitting it early this morning. Appropriate for Pisces. I'm just kidding. Okay, so the way that I've framed this in terms of 5 parenting tips for Pisces kids has been in terms of support. These are not do this, don't do that, as much as they are support this, support these traits. The idea being that it's not so much about getting something right or wrong as it is understanding the archetypal nature of the sign. If your kid has a Pisces moon or a Pisces sun, planets in Pisces, like maybe a bunch of them, or even a strong Venus in Pisces, for example, these things should translate. And what we're really trying to do is say, support this, because if you support this, this is getting at the archetypal heart of the sign. And when we support that, we usually thrive and we feel seen by other people and loved. And that is conducive to growth and happiness in life, generally speaking. So here are our 5 parenting tips for Pisces kids. Number 1, support romantic restlessness. One of the hallmark features of this sign is a double-bodied water sign. And the exaltation of Venus is a very profound sense of the romantic. Now, when you think about romance, generally speaking, you think of people will initially think of a romance novel, a rom-com. They might think of, falling in love, and they might think of, holding hands, going out on dates, getting married, having relationships. Maybe they even think about sex. But romanticism is a lot deeper than that. Romanticism has to do with a yearning, sometimes angsty, sometimes colored by a little bit of tragedy, the tragic way of life, the tragic way of seeing the world. So when you think of romance, you could think about the blues, you could think about jazz music, you could think about literature that captures the emotional yearnings of people and what they love, and how what we love tears us apart and pulls us apart as much as it often brings us together. This is symbolized in the constellation image of Pisces, which is the picture of two fish. One is swimming eastward and upward, and the other one is swimming downward and westward, and their tails are tied together by a string or a cord or a rope. And so you have, on the one hand, the aspirational, the upward and the eastward movement is that of spirit. It's vertical. Let's transcend. Let's move upward. It's moving toward the light. And the other one is moving downward and westward toward the earth, down into the valley of life that's teeming with the alternation of light and dark, with light and dark in the day, light and dark as moral forces that we encounter in everyday life, with light and dark as life and death, with the alternation of joy and pain, or elation and suffering. And so within Pisces is this dual desire to sink more deeply into the belly of the world. And that's the sort of tragic romantic quality. While there's also a pull upward to transcend it. And the two exist simultaneously. And it creates within the body and soul of the Pisces a kind of romantic restlessness. And so the number one thing is to just understand that that restlessness can't be resolved. It can only be supported. Your kids will display that restlessness in so many different ways. And if we can learn to see that restlessness as the two fish pulling in opposite directions with equal spiritual, romantic, imaginative, artistic fervor, then we can really see who our kids are. We can see who we are. So support romantic restlessness. It is natural, it is healthy, it is beautiful, even if it is also restless and romantic in not just clean, nice, hallmark ways, but in those that are complex. Number two, support the emotional alternation of light and dark. Now, this speaks to the moods and emotional life of the Pisces, which often embodies the same duality. This is why the sign was called double-bodied, a double-bodied sign, what we now call mutable. But double-bodied originally meant of two natures simultaneously. And so when we have the upward fish, the aspirational fish, you think of themes like joy and hope and faith and celebration and gratitude and hope. And when you think of the downward moving fish, you think of the moods that capture pain, uncertainty, doubt, impermanence, confusion, chaos, loss, misery. And it is 100% normal to see our Pisces kids cycle through the alternations of light and dark spaces, moods, atmospheres, psychically, emotionally, psychologically, environmentally, that they perceive and are in touch with these alternations more than most signs, and that they live and surf these different alternations in mood and environment and emotion more than most signs. And so love that, support that, and even naming it and saying, you know, I notice that you are able to feel and surf so many different nuances in the atmosphere that take you up and take you down. What a beautiful soul you have. What a beautiful way of seeing the world. Tell me what it's like. You know, how often do we just witness someone on an archetypal level rather than saying, gosh, it must be turbulent, you know, so how can we keep you in the middle, or keep you on the up part but not the down part, or something like that. Number three, support faith and doubt. Here's another version of the alternation. Pisceans will often have great confidence and faith and trust in an idea, in a person, in themselves, in a process, in a life goal or mission, only to suddenly call it into question or feel as though it is being pulled apart, or that confusion and uncertainty set in and can be, for some, will feel, you know, feel torturous. Um, how can we normalize the experience of having tremendous rivers of faith, and within those rivers of faith there are deep dark undercurrents of doubt running at the exact same time? How do we just celebrate that there are people that live like that? How do we not, like, I remember in particular, and I think I've told this story before, when I was in India, I took some time out of the conference schedule. I was speaking at an astrology conference, and I left to go visit Mother Teresa's uh, her convent, and I think it's called the convent, and the her tomb. And so, in the room where her body was in the tomb, I think tomb, is that the right word? Stone. It was very beautiful. It was a silent room. It was you're meant to sit near her and be silent. And right before I entered that room, I was walking through a room that held her archives, and some of the archives, a lot of what was in the archives were the very few things that she kept in her bedroom. For example, she was, lived very modestly. But one of the things that I found interesting was that her prayer journals were kept there, and there was an explanation that was written by someone that was saying, in these journals we find that Mother Teresa's faith was often troubled, and that she was calling things into question and doubting very deeply. But notice that these conversations in her journals were always still with God. She was talking to God about how little faith she felt she had left, and how she didn't think she was doing a very good job, and she was falling short in different ways. And they said, so many people have interpreted this like little, it was like a plaque or something. And it went on to say, so many people have thought that these are indications that Mother Teresa lacked faith, and even questioned whether or not she should be canonized as a saint, which I really don't personally care about. And this author went on to say that these doubts are at the heart of what real faith looks like, and that Mother Teresa's faith went through peaks and valleys throughout her whole life, and that depression was a part of her life. And then I went into that room and I sat near her tomb, and I sat there in silence, in silent prayer. I don't know, maybe like half an hour or something. And I was just struck. There's a lot of poverty in Calcutta, and that was a part of the world that she was trying to do some good in. And I'm not really trying to speak so much about Mother Teresa, because I don't need you all to love Mother Teresa or anything, but it was just, for me, it was like this recognition that a life of faith is a life of doubt, that you can't like separate the two. And faith without doubt is somehow like it's like you have to have a little salt even in the way you make cookies, So that was the kind of insight I was left with, not so much about cookies, but but about faith and doubt being a part of one another. And for Pisces in particular, Mother Teresa had some strong Pisces energy in her chart. The Virgo Pisces axis. So you have to just remember that faith and doubt go together. I'm trying to remember her chart off the top of my head. Was it Chiron in Pisces? I don't remember. No, it was Neptune in Cancer that I was thinking of. Yeah, it was Neptune in Cancer. It's a sort of similar energy. But anyway, she had, I think, a relationship with faith and doubt that is exactly the kind of wrestling with faith and doubt that many Pisces will deal with. And we have to be able to support that these things are going to come together in the way that Pisceans experience the orientation of their life through their beliefs, that they will go through periods of great faith and doubt. Number 4 is to support emotional intelligence. It's interesting that Mercury is in its fall in the sign of Pisces, and Venus is exalted. And Venus is in its fall in Virgo, where Mercury is exalted. So there's always been an archetypal tension between the rational and the sensual. And sometimes you'll see this brought out in the Piscean way of trusting intuition, trusting emotional intelligence above rational, logical, or sort of mental ways of evaluating things. But I think ideally what we need to look at is supporting the marriage of the rational mind with the emotional body, so to speak. The sensual, the emotional, and the rational can work together cooperatively. And that you have to be careful with Pisces of setting up a mind-body split in favor of body, emotion, imagination, romance, psychic or intuitive qualities, etc., and rational qualities, that they actually can work together. So I saying support emotional intelligence, I mean in your kids, support the possibility, support the fusion of those things rather than the splitting of those things, because those are things that can get split in Pisces. Finally, support this world as well as worlds beyond. One of the things that often characterizes the Piscean temperament is the desire to escape this world. Sometimes, of course, that's stereotypical through drugs or through, the challenges with mental health that make it hard to be in this world, which we can sympathize with and have compassion for. And there's also a romantic, artistic sense of being in touch with other dimensions, other worlds that open up through things like film, fantasy, fiction, dance, mysticism. And these have all long been associated with the sign of Pisces. I think it's also important to remember that many of the world's great mystics have told us that heaven is also right here, spread before us, but we can't see it. And that we don't want there to be a split between this world and heavenly or utopian or ideal romantic states or worlds. That there is a sense in which these places are cooperative and they live together right here and right now. So supporting that idea that the beyond is before us, that the beyond is also here. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I know that most people with really strong Piscean placements during their lifetime may go through phases of having to learn that what they're looking for is here and not just elsewhere. It's not in dreams or the future. It's not only in hopes and aspirations for something on the horizon or something beyond this world, but that all of those things that we long for can also be found here, maybe through a change of heart, a change of mind, a change of consciousness, a change of priority. So bringing other worlds and this world together in the same way that we can bring mind and heart together, faith and doubt together, light and dark together. These are the things that I see as probably most important for Pisceans. That if you can validate and recognize these archetypal dualities that are contained in the restless, romantic, beautiful sign of Pisces, the two fish moving in opposite directions with their tails tied together, that Pisceans will feel, I think, seen and loved and valued, not for their ability to figure things out, but for their ability to hold the tensions in the way that they live, which is compelling. It gives us a more soulful way of engaging. If you're around Piscean people, you're going to be exposed to a way of life that is deeper, more fluid, and aware of the interplay of light and dark than most other signs are in touch with. This is a beautiful thing about Pisces. There is no one sign that is more evolved than another. I don't want to give that impression. I hope that in listening to this series, you have been able to learn something about all of the signs, and that the inner child in you, or maybe in the case of parents, your literal children, can be understood at a deeper level and supported at a deeper level. It's been a real joy to make this series. Thank you guys for listening to it. I hope that it'll be evergreen content that people come back to and share for years to come. That is it for now, and I look forward to more as the week goes on. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.